She did not land in the tree. She crash landed into a bunch of leaves, fell, and then flew off. She went deadly quiet. I had no idea where she was. I started to panic.
This is now Monday, the 26th of February, making it day 57? Day 57. I had to think about that then. And I'm still counting this as consistency because I'm still being careful with my food. I'm still not self-sabotaging. I'm still not binge eating. I'm being able to keep under control, get my emotions control, my mental health in control to stop myself from sabotaging. Also, apologies for the wind. It is quite windy today. So last week I didn't actually do much exercise because I was experiencing some COVID symptoms because I potentially caught COVID off one of my family members. More specifically, I think I caught COVID was because I had all of the symptoms. Wind, go away. I had all of the symptoms. Jason tested positive for COVID. His parents tested positive for COVID, as did 2 other family members. Considering I had all the symptoms, I was pretty sure I had it, but for some reason I was still testing negative, so I don't know whether or not the tests were dud or whether or not I just wasn't catching the bacteria in the particular part of my body that the test was for. Even now my throat's still quite sore and I am aching like crazy. I can tell that I've not done any exercise this week or this last 7 days. I did obviously my mobility training and some exercise on Monday, and that was it. I've not been well enough to actually do any exercise for the rest of the week. I have tried and I just kept on getting ill, or I kept on just not having the energy, not having the motivation, just feeling like crap. So I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to have a rest week. I'm going to let my body recover from whatever illness this is. Oh, my arm's killing me. My whole body is aching. A part of me does feel that it's because of lack of exercise and lack of mobility lack of exercise and lack of mobility training that is causing my body to ache. However, I also do feel it's potentially whatever illness this is, because every muscle in my body hurts right now. My neck is cramping like crazy. Oh, it really hurts. My shoulders are aching, my biceps are aching, my thighs are aching for no reason whatsoever. My whole body is just aching from head to toe. My neck especially is really stiff today, and I've been particularly stiff around my ankles the last 4 days, and I'm not too sure why. To be fair though, I haven't been stretching. I've been so focused on the ab training, I haven't been doing any stretching or flexibility whatsoever, so that's also probably not helped. Plan for today is to get home, see whether or not my voiceover foam has dried. If it has, great, but I need to worry about that tonight. If it hasn't, then working on drying that. I also want to do my mobility exercises. I want to try and get some strength training in before I start losing muscle, and I also have a BSL catch up with some of my BSL classmates because we've got our 102 exam coming up soon, so we're getting ready for that. Coco, stop trying to bury the ball.
Hello there. It is Wednesday. It's been a long 2 days. My God, has it been a long 2 days? Just for context, I have not exercised in the last 3 days, and there's been a damn good reason for it. The last 2 days have been some of the most stressful days of my entire life, and I'm not even joking. So on Monday, when I finished work, I came home and I did what I always do. I got my girls, and the weather was nice, so we went outside for some outdoor training. And we did some flying in the garden. And then just as we were about to come back into the house, there was this massively loud bang. Came from nowhere. I've got no idea where this noise came from, but it was so loud it made even me jump. One of my parrots stayed on my shoulder, and one of my parrots spooked a little bit, and she flew past the tree at the back of the garden, looped back round and came back and landed in the tree. Also, I thought. She did not land in the tree. She crash landed into a bunch of leaves, fell, and then flew off. But I didn't see this because she was behind a wall of ivy. I thought she was at the other side of the tree. No, she was 5 freaking doors away down the street. And it took me about 5 minutes to realise, because I started calling her to call her in because we were going back in the house, and she suddenly started calling from about 5 or 6 houses down. And I got very confused by this because I genuinely thought she was in the tree. Anyway, carried on calling her, no response, and then the noises started to move a little bit. Didn't worry about it too much, but then she stopped responding altogether. She went deadly quiet. I started to panic because it was getting dark. The sun was starting to set. It was just getting ready to set. And unfortunately, pet parrots especially, do not move at night time. They do not move. It's like as soon as it starts going darker and they struggle to see, they ain't moving. They're roosting for the night, and you ain't not getting them to budge. Now, I had no idea where she was. No idea. I knew she was nearby. I knew she was in the area. but I had no clue where she was. My partner started looking around the houses for her. No luck. Both of us contact calling her. No response. We had not got a clue where she was. And then darkness finally set in and we kept on looking until about 6:30 at night, looking for her, and we couldn't find her. We couldn't even pinpoint where it was she was hiding. This set in a bit of a panic for me and my partner. I was getting very angry and very annoyed because I put a lot of effort into her training and her free flight training. So for her to disappear off like this and not be able to find her way back, 'cause she does know the area, it was very abnormal. So that was making me panic and me worry a bit because we don't know what was happening to her and we still don't 100% know what happened to her. We were both a bit distraught on Monday night. Neither of us were in a good state of mind. Both of us were quite upset. My partner especially was extremely upset. After stressing out for a bit and having so many bad thoughts going through our brains, like I was panicking about the fact that she might be caught by a cat or an owl, or that she's not landed in a tree, she might have landed on the ground and a cat's going to get her or a fox is going to get her. I was like, I had so many fears running through my brain and endless possibilities of what could be happening to her. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified because I just didn't know. And it was that thought of not knowing that is absolutely terrifying. And at first my partner was dead reassuring about it, going, don't worry, we'll find her, you've put a lot of training into it, and I know he was right, and I knew that we would find her the next day because that's why I've done this training with her. That's why I've put so much effort and so much hard work and so many months and years into their training, is so that if they do go missing, I've got a 99% chance of getting them back. And then he went off to have a shower. And he took a very long time in the shower, and when he came back, he was in floods of tears. He couldn't hold himself together anymore. By this point, I had calmed down, and I was still worried, I was still nervous, but I'd managed to calm myself down, calm my nerves down, so I started comforting him because I knew exactly how he felt. Neither of us slept. We went to bed early because the plan was to get up just before sunrise and start calling for her as the sun was rising so that she knew we were nearby, and neither of us slept. Neither of us slept at all on Monday night. We were both fretting, we were both worried. I had so many back-to-back dreams. I must have had about 6 dreams. In the short space that I was actually sleeping, I had about 6 or 7 very, very vivid dreams, all slightly different every time, of us finding her literally going in the back garden in the middle of the morning, about 9-10 o'clock in the morning, and her just being there in the garden, was like, excuse me, madam, got a bone to pick with you. You worried me and your father. I remember looking at the clock and seeing it was 2 o'clock in the morning, knowing I hadn't slept, knowing I'd had about 7 or 8 or 6 or 7 very vivid dreams in a row. And I could hear my partner sobbing. He physically couldn't sleep. He was so worried. He was just in floods of tears all night long. And usually when you go to bed crying, that actually helps you go to sleep. Not in this scenario, when you are literally physically worrying about whether or not your pet, or in this case, like our parrots, we don't have children right now. Our parrots are the equivalent of our children, and that fear that you don't even know that they're alive, you don't know if they're safe, you don't know if they're okay, it really nerves you and really panics you. So we got up at 6:30 in the morning, just before sunrise. I straight away got dressed, and this is the earliest I've woke up for a long time, but just the scenario, just the urgency of the matter allowed me to get up on time. Like I said, I didn't sleep, so I was just lay in bed for the last half an hour waiting for 6:30 to arrive. And I got up, I got dressed, and I went straight outside. I let my partner stay in bed a bit longer and get some rest. I went outside the back garden, I started calling for her, and at first there was no sign, which I thought that's fine. It's still sunrise, the sun is still rising, she's probably not even awake yet. And then at about 7:15, I started hearing calls from the opposite end of the road to where she was beforehand, or to where she was the day before. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you've clearly travelled, so she's clearly tried to get back to us at some point yesterday before the sunset, got lost, got misdirected, couldn't work out her bearings, and has ended up on the other side of the street. I started calling for her, and then she went deadly silent again. I didn't worry too much. I'm like, right, I've got an idea of where you are. I'm just going to stay here and keep calling as a rendezvous point. So that's what I did. I kept on staying there and calling as a rendezvous point. And then my partner did a lap, couldn't find anything. Then about 8 o'clock, or just before 8 o'clock, he set off again. And as I was calling her, I heard her again on directly behind our house. So she's clearly tried to make her way to us, but again, couldn't quite work out where we were. But I directed my partner and said, right, she's in this direction, head that way. And he went looking for her. And again, after a couple of calls, after a few calls, she went quiet again and we had no idea where she was. And it was really starting to worry us because I wasn't even 100% sure that it was her. It sounded like her, but it sounded so faint and so distant, I couldn't quite be sure. It's like I was doubting myself. I know it was her. I know now that it was her. I know for a fact it was her. But at the time I was doubting myself. I was like, am I hearing things? Is it actually her? Am I just being hopeful? Am I getting delirious? Am I imagining things? But it was definitely her. But my partner did a lap, couldn't find her, and then he needed to leave for work. And I was so scared about him going to work because he was in such a state. I said to him, whatever you do, if you have to go to work, just be careful driving. If you need to stop. I don't care if you're late for work, get there safely. So he left. I thankfully had a quiet day, so I decided to give it an hour or so, and if I needed to, delay my walks to give me a chance of finding her. And then just after my partner left for work, I broke down in tears because I just couldn't understand why she wasn't in the back garden. I couldn't understand why she hadn't found her way back to us already because it was completely out of character. Like usually she's so good at coming back. So I was getting very worried about the fact that she'd not come back, about the fact that I wasn't 100% sure whether or not it was her calls. I was getting really upset and it was really starting to hit me. I was genuinely scared we weren't going to get back. After I finished my little breakdown, or my emotional breakdown, I contacted my clients and said, I'm really, really sorry. I'm having a family emergency. My pet's gone missing and I'm distraught and I am currently in no fit. I've already broke down into tears this morning and I am in no fit state to drive. And I wasn't. I was physically shaking and I couldn't see from tears. I was not in a good place. So thankfully, all my clients were extremely understanding because they knew that I would be the same if any of their dogs go missing. They know that I'd be just as upset, just as heartbroken. I'd be out looking for them as well. Because of that, I was able to cancel my walks for the day, which gave me a little bit of peace of mind because it meant I could spend all day looking for her if needed. I spent another half an hour or so in the back garden calling and calling. Nothing. I thought I could hear a faint noise from a similar direction, but I couldn't be 100% sure. By this point, her missing poster was all over Facebook. It was all over the local resident pages. It was all over the town pages for where we live. So everyone knew that she was missing. Everyone was aware. Everyone was out, or not out looking for her, but knew to keep an eye out for her. The news started to reach several of my friends and family, and one of my oldest and dearest friends, literally one of my oldest friends, we've been friends since play school. Like that's how long I've known this person. She's like an extra sister to me. She's such a lovely person, and she surprisingly had the day off because she had to give her mum a lift. I'm not going to go into details, but she had to give her mum a lift, and so she had the day off. So she said, well, once I drop my mum off, I'll come help you because I've got to wait around to pick her up again. So I was like, thank you very much. So she came around and helped, and we did a few laps, and at one point we were both certain we heard her in a certain direction, but we couldn't be 100% sure because it was so faint and so quiet. So we carried on looking, we carried on our circling, and we did what's called a spiral search, where you start, in this case, our house, and you do a small lap, and then you expand on it, and then you expand on it, and you expand on it. Anyway, my friend couldn't stay much longer. After about an hour or so of searching, if not more, this was about 10 o'clock now, my friend said, like, she needs to go check on her cat before she goes pick her mum. I was like, that's fine. The fact that you've come and helped out in any way, shape, or form, I'm extremely grateful for. It was very, very relieving, and it was so nice to have some peace of mind that there was a second pair of eyes and ears listening out for her, and it wasn't just my imagination, that this person was hearing the same thing. And I genuinely could not be more grateful for her coming to help. Once she went home, I had a quick break with Quaffle because I was taking Quaffle out with me because Quaffle is very good at hearing Lyra and seeing Lyra before I do, and she usually warns me or contacts me to say, oi, she's over there, or I've seen her, she's in the area. So Quaffle was out with me in the backpack, and thankfully Quaffle's bomb-proof. Like, I can take Quaffle anywhere and she does not faze her. But I had her in the backpack just in case, because I didn't want her flying off into a tree and deciding to sit there for 20 minutes while I'm trying to search. So I carried on with my spiral search. I started expanding the area. I started slowly outgrowing into some of the houses. And while I was searching, I heard sirens, but the sirens sounded like they were coming from the end of the streets, when in reality, the sirens were actually about 5 roads behind me. And that's when I kind of realised that's how she's struggled to find her way home, because of the way the houses are laid out where I am. Any sound that's made bounces and echoes and can actually sound like it's in a completely different direction to what you're actually calling from. And one of my other free flight friends actually found a similar scenario when one of her birds went missing in a valley. She was calling for them, but the way the valley was shaped was causing her voice to echo in an opposite direction. So the bird was chasing the echo instead of coming to her. And I do genuinely believe that's what happened with my bird. She was chasing my echo instead of finding the source, because she couldn't work out where the source was from. She could only follow the echo that she could hear. I genuinely believe that's why she struggled to find her way home. But after expanding my search around about, what time was it? 10 past 11, give or take. 5 minutes. I was getting so upset and so confused and so lost. I'm like, I don't want to go in a certain direction because there's a lot of busy traffic that way, and if she is that way, if she isn't that way, I don't want to encourage her back in that direction. But I decided to go towards a very busy street with lots of traffic where I knew I was going to struggle to hear her if she was there. But I thought to myself, this is the direction the original calls were coming from, and if she is in this area, it would explain why she's not calling to me now. She either can't hear me over the traffic or I can't hear her over the traffic. So we started looking in that direction, and I started looking at some really tall pine trees that I would imagine would be a good place for her to hide or to roost. And while I was looking in these trees, while I was calling, my quaffle in my backpack started going mad. She started screaming like crazy, and I thought, thank God, she must be nearby. She has to be nearby. If quaffle's screaming, it's either danger or something unknown. Like, for example, at one point there was 3 fighter jets going over our heads, so Quaffle screamed at that naturally. But it's like, I can't see any danger, I can't see any threat. It must be that she's seen or heard her. And sure enough, as soon as Quaffle stopped screaming, I heard her behind me. I could hear her calling from the housing estate behind me. I turned around, I was very careful to make sure that I got across the traffic safely, ran straight into the housing estate, and not 2 seconds after running to this housing estate, I called her again. I could still hear her little call bouncing and echoing off all the houses. So I knew she was somewhere in that area, I just didn't know where. And sure enough, as soon as I rounded that first corner and I called, I could hear her directly above my head. Her scream had gone from bouncing around the houses to being directly above my head, and I stopped and I turned. And sure enough, there she was. The amount of relief I felt seeing her was phenomenal. I can't physically put into words how happy I was. I'm already welling up about the fact that she was there, she was safe, I knew where she was okay. No sooner did she see me, she jumped straight off where she was hiding from. She was basically at the top of a set of stairs or to a set of flats, or she was at the top of the stairs to a set of flats. No sooner did she see me, she jumped straight off, she flew right down, did a lovely little loop straight into my hands, and good God, was she happy to see me, and God, was I happy to see her. I broke down into happy tears. She was just sat on my finger like, can you just please get me away from this traffic? So we hid round like a little corner so she felt safer, and we had a nice little reunion. I contacted my partner immediately saying, I've got her, she's safe, she's fine. He contacted me back. He rang me straight away. He's like, are you sure? I was like, yes, she's here. I can send you a video evidence, photo evidence. I don't care. I've got her. She's safe. She's fine. I'm getting her home now. He actually got sent home from work because apparently when he heard the news, he completely went. And they said, just go home. You're not fit to work today. So they sent him home. I switched Lyra and Quaffle around. So I took Quaffle out of the backpack and I put Lyra in, because Quaffle is like my security bird or secure bird. She doesn't fly off. If I don't want her to, she usually stays sat on my shoulders, or if I have hold of her on my hand, she knows not to fly away. So I have that peace of mind and I have that level of comfort that she won't fly off even in the scenario that we're in. I didn't want to put Lyra under any more stress. I didn't want to risk her spooking again and darting off on the way home. So I put Lyra in the backpack, kept Quaffle on my hand, and we walked back home, which thankfully was only a 5-minute walk max. Sure enough, Quaffle stayed on my hand. Once we got into a safe area, popped her on my shoulder. She didn't move off my shoulder like I knew she wouldn't. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful her training has paid off. We got home. And Lyra went straight for a drink, straight for some food, and then jumped into her cage and fell completely asleep. She was exhausted. When we checked her over, it looks like she does have some missing feathers. She's got a couple of little patches where it looks like some of her feathers have been tampered with. So we believe one of the reasons that she did struggle to get home was potentially that she got chased by some of the nesting magpies. Magpies, when they start nesting, they get really territorial and really angry, and they'll even like dive bomb people. Not quite as bad as the ones in Australia, but they can be a bit nasty. And so we do think that she may have got chased by some of the local magpies during the whole ordeal, which would also explain why she's so tired. We've got a feeling she didn't sleep last night either. She was exhausted. She just went straight to sleep. And I remember thinking to myself, like, do you know what? This is great. I've got the rest of the day off. I can focus on some admin work. I can catch up with my business social media. I could do some video editing. I could do this. I could do that. I could do some exercise. The second I sat down, my body crashed, like completely and utterly crashed. I had no control over it. I couldn't move, I couldn't think. The relief I felt, the happiness I felt, along with the emotional stress over the last 24 hours, all hit me like a bus. It literally hit me like a brick wall and I was gone. Then eventually my partner came home, and again, he was the same. He was so relieved, so happy. He had happy tears pouring out his eyes. And sure enough, as soon as he sat down, he crashed out. I can't even put into words the amount of emotional, mental and physical stress and exhaustion that level of worry puts on you. It's just exhausting. It's so exhausting. My partner ended up going for a nap around 2:30, 3 o'clock. He didn't wake up until about 6 or 7, if not later. I chose not to go for a nap because in my head, I had things to do. I wanted to exercise, I wanted to do a video edit, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't go to sleep. I didn't go for a nap, even though I really needed one. I ended up staying up until standard bedtime, and I just didn't get anything done. My brain was just a mist of mush. My physical body just couldn't move. I was numb to the world. I was gone. Tell you what though, I slept that night. Tuesday night, I slept like a log. I was out cold. Oh, I've not had such a good night's sleep in a long time. Then I woke up this morning and I've still been pretty tired from the whole thing, because missing a night's sleep already takes a couple of days to recover from. But that, again, that level of emotional, mental stress, that really did wipe out all my energy reserves and my backup reserves and my backup reserves. So this morning I was still feeling pretty tired. I've been yawning all day at work. I've been exhausted, but thankfully I've had really nice easy dogs on today, so it's not been too bad. And I still had every intention of getting home and exercising, and by my last walk I realised it wasn't going to happen. I just didn't have the energy. I still don't have the energy. So instead I've caught up on my business social media. I've done a bit of admin work. I've done some organising and tidying of my files. I've emptied a load of stuff off my phone. I've done some organising for my YouTube videos, or the folders for the YouTube videos I need to edit. So I've been productive in that sense, because I just physically haven't been able to move. I've just been so tired. But anyway, that's what's happened over the last less than 48 hours. And why I've not done any exercise and why I've not done any vlogging in that period of time. It was just wow. Just wow. That's the only way I can explain it, is wow. That was tiring, that was exhausting, and that was mind melting. But it's over now. I'm all caught up. I'm going to have another nice big long sleep tonight, hopefully. We are going to try and get back at it tomorrow. That's not the only thing that's happened in the last 48 hours. This morning, or currently, we have like gas people outside of our house changing the pipes, digging up the roads and all sorts. And they actually had to turn our gas off today. Today was the day we had to have our gas turned off while they changed the pipes. And they told us that they were going to come back in the evening to test the pipes, make sure they're okay, and turn our gas back on. And unfortunately, they finished and left before we got home from work. So we have no gas right now. Because we don't have any gas, we don't have any hot water for showers or baths or cleaning of that sort of any kind. So that's another reason I couldn't do exercise today, is because if I do exercise, I have no way of washing all the sweat off me afterwards. Or if I do, it'd be with freezing cold water, and I'm not about a cold water shower. No. So that's why my hair looks like horrible right now. It looks awful. It's itchy as hell. I'm desperate for a shower. I can't have one. I can't have one because we have no gas in order to heat up the boiler. Oh, it's been a fun couple of days. So anyway, I am going to go to bed now that I've caught you guys up with what's going on. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to hopefully have a nice long sleep, and then I am hoping just to be back to normal tomorrow. I've got a nice easy day at work, so I'm going to try and do a mobility session, or a very minimum mobility session, when I get home tomorrow. And then later in the evening, I'm actually doing a paddle session with Jason, which I'm hoping to take you guys along on. But I'll be using the GoPro for that because, you know, outdoors, water, high chance of losing said GoPro. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be nice.